The crack of his skull hitting the medicine cabinet echoed louder than the flatline alarm. Dr. Victoria Crane didn't just scream at the new male nurse. She grabbed him by the throat with both hands and slammed him backward, her designer nails drawing blood from his neck. "Know your place, Daddy Daycare," she hissed, her face inches from his. "This is my trauma bay." The entire ER froze. They expected Marcus Cole, the quiet single father who worked double shifts to pay for his daughter's insulin, to crumble, to cry, to beg. But they didn't know that the man choking in those faded scrubs wasn't just a nurse. He was a decorated Army Ranger who had performed surgery under enemy fire. And Dr. Crane had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Seattle Grace Memorial buzzed like dying insects at 3 a.m. Marcus Cole pushed his mop across the linoleum floor of the emergency room, his movements slow and deliberate. He didn't look up when the ambulance sirens screamed outside. He didn't flinch when a code blue was called over the intercom. He just kept mopping. "Cole, Bay 6 needs a bedpan change." Marcus nodded without speaking. He leaned the mop against the wall and walked toward Bay 6, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Hey, did you hear me?" The voice belonged to nurse practitioner Reynolds, a heavy-set woman who had worked at Seattle Grace for 22 years. She stepped in front of Marcus, blocking his path. "I said Bay 6, bedpan, now!" "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. His voice was barely above a whisper. Reynolds watched him walk away, shaking her head. She turned to David Chen, the charge nurse on duty. 3 months, Reynolds said. "That man has been here 3 months, and I swear I've heard him say maybe 50 words total." David shrugged. "He does his job." "He's weird, David. He doesn't eat lunch with anyone. He doesn't talk. He just exists, like a ghost." "Maybe he's shy." "Shy?" Reynolds laughed. "He's a grown man, 40-something years old. Single dad, I heard. Works the night shift so he can take his kid to school in the morning." She lowered her voice. "You know what I think? I think he's hiding something." David didn't respond. He was watching Marcus disappear around the corner, moving with a silence that seemed almost unnatural for a man his size. In the supply closet, Marcus Cole leaned his forehead against the cool metal shelving. He closed his eyes. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. His hands were steady. They were always steady. They had been steady in the Korengal Valley when the RPG hit his convoy. They had been steady when he packed the chest wound of his commanding officer while Taliban fighters closed in from 300 meters away. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Marcus pulled it out. The screen showed a photo of an 8-year-old girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. The text beneath it read, "Daddy, I can't sleep. When are you coming home?" Marcus typed back, "Soon, baby girl. 2 more hours. I love you." The reply came instantly. "I love you more. Grandma made pancakes for breakfast tomorrow." Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real. He put the phone away and rolled up his sleeves to wash his hands. The scars on his left forearm caught the harsh light. Shrapnel wounds, dozens of them. A constellation of pain mapped across his skin. On his right wrist, hidden beneath a cheap digital watch, was a tattoo. The insignia of the 75th Ranger Regiment. He wasn't supposed to be here. The Army had medically discharged him after Operation Blackwood, a classified mission in Syria that had gone wrong in ways that would never make the news. The military psychiatrist said he needed time, a low-stress environment, a chance to reintegrate into civilian life. So here he was, mopping floors, changing bedpans, taking abuse from doctors who had never seen blood outside of an operating room. It was fine. It was part of the mission. Blend in, don't engage, survive. For Lily. Everything was for Lily. "Cole!" The voice cut through the supply closet door like a knife. Marcus recognized it immediately. Everyone at Seattle Grace recognized that voice. Dr. Victoria Crane, Chief of Trauma Surgery, daughter of Senator William Crane, the most feared physician in the Pacific Northwest. Marcus opened the door. Dr. Crane stood in the hallway, her arms crossed, her foot tapping impatiently against the tile. She was 42 years old, immaculately dressed in designer scrubs that probably cost more than Marcus's weekly salary. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, and her blue eyes held the warmth of a glacier. "Did you hear me calling you?" Dr. Crane demanded. "Yes, ma'am." "Then why didn't you come immediately?" "I was washing my— I don't care what you were doing." Dr. Crane stepped closer. "When I call, you come. Do you understand that, Cole? Or is that too complicated for someone who probably got his nursing degree from a community college?" Marcus said nothing. "Answer me." "I understand, Dr. Crane." "Good." She thrust a clipboard of his chest. "Trauma Bay 4. Patient needs a catheter change. Try not to mess it up. I know fine motor skills aren't exactly your specialty." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the floor. David Chen appeared at Marcus's side. "You okay?" Marcus nodded. "She's been in a mood all week," David said quietly. "Her father's facing a Senate ethics investigation. Something about campaign funds. She takes it out on everyone, but—" He hesitated. "She seems to have a special thing for you." "It's fine." "It's not fine, Marcus. The way she talks to you." "I said it's fine." Marcus looked at David for the first time. His eyes were dark and unreadable. "I've dealt with worse." Before David could respond, Marcus walked away toward Trauma Bay 4. The break room at 4 a.m. was empty except for Marcus and the hum of the vending machine. He sat alone at a table in the corner, eating a sandwich he had brought from home. Turkey and cheese on white bread. Lily had helped him make it the night before, carefully spreading the mustard just the way he liked it. "Daddy, why do you work at night?" "Because the hospital needs people at night too, sweetheart." "But I miss you." "I miss you too, baby girl. But this job helps pay for your medicine. And soon, Daddy's going to get a better job, and we'll have more time together. I promise." "Pinky promise?" "Pinky promise." Marcus stared at the sandwich. He wasn't hungry anymore. The break room door swung open. 2 nurses walked in, Chloe Martinez and Jessica Webb. They were mid-conversation and didn't notice Marcus in the corner. "Did you hear what she did to Dr. Patterson?" Chloe said, pouring herself a coffee. "The resident? What happened?" "He questioned one of her diagnoses during rounds. Just a simple question, totally respectful. She made him stand in the corner of the OR for the entire surgery. 4 hours, like he was a child in timeout. Jesus. And then she reported him to the medical board for unprofessional conduct. His career is basically over." Jessica shook her head. "Why doesn't anyone do anything? Why doesn't someone report her?" Chloe laughed bitterly. "Report her? To who? Her father is on the hospital board. He's a United States Senator. The Cranes own this hospital. They own half the politicians in Washington state." She took a sip of her coffee. "Nobody touches Victoria Crane. Nobody. What about that guy she went after last year? The orderly? Frank? He tried to file a complaint with HR. 3 days later, they found marijuana in his locker. He was fired and arrested." Chloe lowered her voice. "Everyone knows she planted it, but nobody can prove anything. That's insane. That's Seattle Grace." They finally noticed Marcus sitting in the corner. "Oh," Chloe said, her face flushing. Sorry, we didn't see you there. Marcus stood up. I was just leaving. He walked past them without another word. As the door closed behind him, Jessica turned to Chloe. That's the new guy, right? The quiet one? Marcus Cole. Yeah, he's been here a few months. He gives me the creeps. The way he moves, the way he's always watching everything. I heard he's a single dad, has a sick kid or something, works doubles to pay the medical bills. Jessica sighed. That's sad, but still, there's something off about him. Like he's not really here, you know? Like he's somewhere else in his head. Chloe nodded. David calls him the ghost. The next 72 hours were hell. It started small. Dr. Crane assigned Marcus to every difficult patient in the ER. The combative drunks, the psych holds, the code browns. He handled it all without complaint. Then it escalated. Cole, why is this IV bag half empty? The patient was dehydrated, Dr. Crane. I increased the... Did I ask you to think? Did I ask you to make medical decisions? You're a nurse, Cole. A male nurse. You follow orders. You don't have opinions. Yes, Dr. Crane. Say it again. Yes, Dr. Crane. Louder. Yes, Dr. Crane. She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Good boy. The second incident happened during a trauma code. A construction worker had fallen 4 stories onto a pile of rebar. He was bleeding out, his blood pressure crashing, and every second counted. Marcus was assisting, handing instruments to Dr. Crane with practiced efficiency. Clamp, she barked. Marcus handed her the clamp. That's the wrong clamp, you idiot! Doctor, Crane, it's the... She threw the clamp across the room. It hit the wall with a metallic clang. I said the wrong clamp! Are you deaf and stupid? The patient's monitor started screaming. VFib. He's crashing, one of the residents shouted. In the chaos, Marcus looked at the instrument tray. The clamp he had handed her was correct. He knew it. She knew it. But it didn't matter. Dr. Crane grabbed the defibrillator paddles. Clear! Marcus stepped back. The patient's body convulsed. Again! Charge to 300! Clear! The monitor beeped. Once. Twice. Sinus rhythm. Dr. Crane ripped off her gloves and threw them at Marcus's chest. Clean this up, and next time don't hand me the wrong instruments, or I'll have your license. She stormed out of the trauma bay. Marcus stood there, blood on his scrubs, her gloves at his feet. He didn't say a word. You have to report her. David Chen caught Marcus in the hallway after the shift. What she did in there, that was assault. She threw a surgical instrument. She threw her gloves at you. It's fine. Stop saying that. David grabbed Marcus's arm. It's not fine. She's targeting you, Marcus. I don't know why, but she's made you her personal punching bag. Marcus looked at David's hand on his arm. David let go immediately. I'm sorry, David said. I've worked here for 15 years. I've seen her destroy people. Good people. Nurses, residents, even other doctors. She broke them. She made them quit, or she got them fired, or she... He trailed off. I don't want that to happen to you. Why do you care? The question caught David off guard. What? Why do you care what happens to me? You don't know me. David was quiet for a moment. Because you remind me of my brother. He was in the army. Came back from Iraq in 2007. Couldn't adjust. Couldn't find work. Nobody understood him. He paused. He killed himself 3 years later. Marcus said nothing. I don't know what your story is, Marcus. I don't know where you came from or what you've been through. But I recognize that look in your eyes. That 1,000-yard stare. And I'm not going to watch another good man get destroyed by someone like Victoria Crane. For a long moment, the two men stood in silence. Then Marcus spoke. I have a daughter. David nodded. I know. She's 8. Her name is Lily. She's diabetic, type 1. Insulin costs $400 a month. More, sometimes. Jesus. I need this job, David. I need the insurance. Without it, Marcus's jaw tightened. I can't fight back. I can't afford to lose. Do you understand? I understand. Good. Marcus started walking away. Then let me handle this my way. Thursday night, 11:47 p.m. Marcus was restocking the supply closet when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Grandma Rose. His heart stopped. Rose never called during his shift unless... Hello? Marcus. Rose's voice was shaking. It's Lily. Her blood sugar crashed. I called 911. They're taking her to Seattle Grace. Marcus was already running. How low? 32. She was unconscious when I found her. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I checked on her an hour ago and she was fine. I don't know what... It's not your fault, Rose. I'm coming. He burst through the doors of the ER just as the ambulance pulled in. 2 paramedics wheeled the gurney through the doors. On it lay Lily Cole, 8 years old, pale as paper, an oxygen mask over her face. That's my daughter, Marcus shouted. That's my daughter! He ran to the gurney, grabbing Lily's hand. Sir, you need to step back. I'm her father, and I'm a nurse at this hospital. What's her glucose? 28 and dropping. We pushed dextrose, but she's not responding. 28. God. 28. Lily, baby, can you hear me? Daddy's here. Daddy's right here. No response. Which bay? Marcus demanded. Trauma 2. He ran alongside the gurney, never letting go of Lily's hand. They pushed through the doors of Trauma 2, and standing there, already gowned and gloved, was Dr. Victoria Crane. Well, well, Dr. Crane said, a smile playing at the corner of her lips. What do we have here? Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. 8-year-old female, hypoglycemic crisis, the paramedic reported. Type 1 diabetic, glucose is 28, unresponsive to initial dextrose. Fascinating. Dr. Crane looked at Marcus. Is this your daughter, Cole? Yes. How unfortunate. She snapped her gloves. Nurse Cole, you're contaminating my trauma bay. Step outside. She's my daughter. And this is my ER. Step outside. I'm not leaving her. Dr. Crane's eyes narrowed. Are you disobeying a direct order? I'm not leaving my daughter. The room went silent. The paramedics exchanged glances. The other nurses stopped moving. No one had ever said no to Dr. Victoria Crane. Dr. Crane walked toward Marcus slowly, deliberately, like a predator stalking prey. Let me make something very clear to you, Nurse Cole. She spat the title like it was dirty. You are nothing in this hospital. You are less than nothing. You mop floors. You empty bedpans. You exist because I allow you to exist. She was inches from his face now. If you do not step outside in the next 5 seconds, I will have security escort you out of this building. I will have your nursing license revoked. I will make sure you never work in healthcare again. And then, she leaned closer, whispering, who will pay for little Lily's insulin? Marcus's hands trembled, not with fear, with something else. 4 seconds. He looked at Lily on the table, so small, so fragile. 3 seconds. He thought of Rose, waiting in the lobby, terrified. 2 seconds. He thought of the promise he made, to always protect her, to always be there. 1. I'll go. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. Dr. Crane smiled. Smart choice. Marcus released Lily's hand. He backed toward the door, his eyes never leaving his daughter's face. Oh, and Cole, Dr. Crane called out. Don't worry, I'll take very good care of her. The door closed in Marcus's face. He stood there, alone in the hallway, his forehead pressed against the glass. Inside, he watched Dr. Crane move around his daughter's bed. He watched. And he waited. And something inside him, something he had buried deep in the mountains of Afghanistan, something he had locked away in the classified files of Operation Blackwood, began to stir. 47 minutes later, the door opened. Dr. Crane emerged, stripping off her gloves. She's stable, she said, barely glancing at Marcus. It was touch and go for a while. Her glucose dropped to 19, but I managed to bring her back. She smiled. You're welcome. Marcus pushed past her into the trauma bay. Lily was awake, pale, weak, but awake. Daddy? Marcus was at her side in an instant, gathering her small hand in both of his. I'm here, baby girl. I'm right here. I was scared. I know, but you're okay now. You're going to be okay. The doctor was mean. Marcus's jaw tightened. What? She said mean things. When she thought I was sleeping, she said... Lily's lip trembled. She said you were worthless. She said I was a burden. She said... Shh. Marcus stroked her hair. Don't think about that. Just rest. Daddy, why was she so mean? Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't. Because if he opened his mouth, he wasn't sure what would come out. 3 days later, Lily was home, recovering under Rose's watchful eye. Her glucose levels had stabilized, but the doctors wanted to monitor her closely. Marcus returned to work. He had no choice. The bills didn't stop. The insulin didn't get cheaper. And Seattle Grace was the only hospital in the area whose insurance covered Lily's condition. He walked through the ER doors at 10:58 p.m., ready for his shift. David was waiting for him at the nurse's station. Marcus, David's face was pale. Listen, I need to tell you something before... Cole! The voice echoed through the ER. Dr. Victoria Crane strode toward him, a stack of papers in her hand. You're late. Marcus checked his watch. My shift starts at 11. It's 10:58. Your shift starts when I say it starts. She slammed the papers against his chest. I've had complaints about you, Cole. Multiple complaints. Insubordination, incompetence, failure to follow proper medical protocols. What complaints? From who? That's confidential. She smiled. But effective immediately, you're on probation. One more incident, one more mistake, and you're terminated. Marcus looked at the papers. They were formal write-ups, signed and dated. Every accusation was fabricated. He knew it. She knew it. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Dr. Crane asked. Marcus looked at her. He thought of Lily in that hospital bed. He thought of what his daughter had heard. Worthless. Burden. No, ma'am. Dr. Crane's smile widened. Good. Now get to work. Bay 7 needs... The double doors of the ER exploded open. Paramedics rushed in, pushing a gurney surrounded by a flurry of activity. Multiple GSWs. Male, approximately 55, chest and abdomen. BP is crashing. We lost pulse twice on the way in. The ER snapped into action. But Marcus didn't move. He was staring at the patient on the gurney. A large man, built like a tank, gray beard streaked with blood, a tactical vest cut open by the paramedics, and on his shoulder, visible beneath the gore, was a tattoo. A dagger with wings, the insignia of the 75th Ranger Regiment. Marcus felt the world tilt. He knew that face. No, it can't be. "Cole!" Dr. Crane shouted. "Stop standing there like an idiot and get to Trauma Bay 1, now!" Marcus moved, but his mind was somewhere else. Somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan. Somewhere in the classified files of Operation Blackwood. Somewhere with the man who had carried him to the evac helicopter when he was hit. The man who had saved his life. Colonel James Hammer Morrison, his commanding officer, his brother in arms. And now, dying on a gurney in Seattle Grace Memorial, with Dr. Victoria Crane reaching for the defibrillator paddles. Marcus grabbed a pair of gloves and pushed through the doors of Trauma Bay 1. Colonel Morrison lay on the table, his chest covered in blood, his face swollen beyond recognition. But Marcus knew those hands. He knew that scar on the left forearm. He knew the way the colonel's jaw was set, even in unconsciousness, like he was still fighting. "Talk to me," Dr. Crane barked, snapping on her gloves. "Male, mid-50s, 3 gunshot wounds to the chest and 1 to the abdomen," the lead paramedic reported. "BP 60/40, tachycardic at 140, lost pulse twice en route." "Get me a central line," Dr. Crane ordered, "and somebody get the blood bank on the phone. I want 4 units of O-neg ready in 2 minutes." Marcus moved to the head of the bed, positioning himself at the airway. His hands moved automatically, checking the oxygen mask, preparing the suction catheter. But his eyes were on the colonel's face. "Hammer, what the hell happened to you?" "Cole!" Dr. Crane's voice cut through his thoughts. "Stop daydreaming and get me a chest tray. Now!" Marcus turned to grab the instruments. David Chen rushed into the trauma bay, his face pale. "Dr. Crane, the blood bank says they're short on O-neg. They can have 2 units ready in 5 minutes." 5 minutes? This man will be dead in 5 minutes. Tell them I want it now. "I'll call again." "Don't call. Go. Run there yourself if you have to." David sprinted out of the room. Marcus returned with the chest tray. He set it on the instrument table, his mind racing. 3 gunshot wounds to the chest, 1 to the abdomen. The colonel was bleeding out internally. But something else was wrong. Something the monitors weren't showing yet. Marcus watched the colonel's chest rise and fall. Asymmetrical. The right side wasn't expanding properly. "Dr. Crane," Marcus said. She ignored him, focused on establishing the central line. "Dr. Crane, his breath sounds... Did I ask for your opinion, Cole?" "No, but I think he has a tension pneumo." "You think?" Dr. Crane spun around. "You think?" "Let me tell you what I think, Cole. I think you're a glorified janitor who somehow got a nursing license. I think you should shut your mouth and do your job. Can you do that? Can you follow simple instructions?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Yes, Dr. Crane." "Good. Now suction the airway and stay out of my way." Marcus positioned the suction catheter. He cleared the blood from the colonel's airway, but his eyes kept drifting to the chest. The trachea was shifting, deviated to the left. Tension pneumothorax. His lung is collapsing. The pressure is building. If she doesn't decompress... "He's crashing!" one of the nurses shouted. The monitor screamed. "VFib." "Paddles!" Dr. Crane grabbed the defibrillator. "Charged to 200. "Charged." "Clear." She slammed the paddles onto the colonel's chest. His body convulsed. The monitor showed a flat line. "Charged to 300. "Dr. Crane, wait!" Marcus stepped forward. "Shocking him won't work. His lung has collapsed. The pressure on his heart..." "I said clear!" She shocked him again. Nothing. Charge to 360. Listen to me. Marcus moved closer. Look at his neck. The jugular distension. The tracheal deviation. It's a tension pneumothorax. You need to decompress the chest, or he dies. Dr. Crane froze. For a moment, Marcus thought she understood. He thought she would listen. Then she smiled. You're telling me how to do my job? Her voice was soft, dangerous. You, a male nurse who couldn't cut it in the real world, so he changes bedpans for a living? I'm telling you how to save his life. His life is in my hands, not yours, mine. She turned back to the patient. Charge to 360. Clear! The shock did nothing. The monitor flatlined. Damn it! Dr. Crane threw the paddles onto the crash cart. He's gone. Call it. No. The word came out before Marcus could stop it. Every head in the trauma bay turned. What did you say? Dr. Crane's voice was ice. I said no. Marcus reached for the instrument tray. He's not dead. He has a pulseless rhythm because the pressure in his chest is stopping his heart from pumping. One needle. That's all it takes. One needle, and he lives. He grabbed a 14-gauge angiocatheter. Put that down, Dr. Crane ordered. Marcus didn't move. I said, put it down. Make me. The words hung in the air. Chloe Martinez gasped. The respiratory therapist took a step back. Even the unconscious patient seemed to hold his breath. Dr. Victoria Crane had been challenged. By a nurse. By a male nurse. By a nobody. Her face twisted into something ugly, something primal. You worthless piece of garbage, she hissed. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I can do to you? I know exactly who you are, Marcus said. His voice was calm, steady. You're a surgeon who's about to let a decorated Army colonel die because you're too proud to listen to a nurse. How dare you? I dare because I've seen men like him die before. I've held them in my arms while they bled out in the dirt, and I swore I would never let it happen again. Not if I could stop it. Dr. Crane stepped toward him. You're finished, Cole. You hear me? Finished. I will destroy you. I will take everything you have. Your job, your license, your daughter. Don't. The word was quiet, almost gentle. But something in Marcus's eyes changed. The 1,000-yard stare that David had noticed. The emptiness that made the other nurses uneasy. It was gone. In its place was something else. Something hard. Something cold. Something dangerous. Don't what? Dr. Crane laughed. Don't mention your precious little Lily? The sick little girl who can't survive without Daddy's insurance? What's wrong, Cole? Did I hit a nerve? Marcus didn't answer. That's what I thought. Dr. Crane turned to the nurses. Someone call security. I want this man escorted out of my hospital in handcuffs. She reached for the chart, dismissing Marcus like he was nothing. And that's when Marcus moved. He stepped around her and headed for the patient, the needle still in his hand. Stop! Dr. Crane grabbed his arm. Marcus kept walking. I said stop! She yanked him backward. Marcus stumbled but didn't fall. He turned to face her. Get out of my way, he said. Or what? What are you going to do, Cole? Hit me? Go ahead, hit me. Give me a reason to put you in prison. I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to save my commanding officer. Dr. Crane's eyes widened. Your what? Colonel James Morrison, 75th Ranger Regiment. He was my CO in Afghanistan. Marcus's voice cracked. He carried me 2 miles through enemy territory after I took shrapnel to the chest. He saved my life. and I'll be damned if I let him die on this table because you're too arrogant to admit you're wrong." For a moment, Dr. Crane hesitated. Then her face hardened. "I don't care if he's the President of the United States. You're a nurse. You don't make medical decisions. You don't question doctors. You follow orders." She shoved Marcus backward. He caught himself against the crash cart. "Now get out of my trauma bay before you what?" The voice came from the doorway. David Chen stood there, 2 bags of blood in his hands, his face white as a sheet. "David, get back to work," Dr. Crane snapped. "I saw what you did." "Excuse me?" "I saw you push him." David's voice was shaking, but he didn't back down. "That's assault, Dr. Crane, and I'm not the only witness." Behind David, 3 other nurses had gathered in the doorway. Chloe Martinez, Jessica Webb, an older nurse named Margaret, who had worked at Seattle Grace for 30 years. They were watching. Dr. Crane laughed. "You think anyone cares? You think anyone will believe you? My father is Senator William Crane. He sits on the hospital board. He plays golf with the chief of police." She spread her arms wide. "I am untouchable." "Maybe," Marcus said. He was standing straight now. His shoulders were back. His feet were planted shoulder-width apart. A combat stance. "But he's not." He pointed at Colonel Morrison, whose monitor was still showing asystole. "You can destroy me, Dr. Crane. You can take my job, my license, my life. But right now, in this room, there's a man dying. A hero. A soldier who served his country for 30 years. And you're letting him die because you can't stand to be wrong." He held up the needle. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to decompress his chest. If I'm wrong, you can have me arrested. You can sue me. You can do whatever you want. But if I'm right," he paused, "if I'm right, that man lives, and you have to explain to everyone in this room why you almost killed him." Dr. Crane's face was red with rage. "You wouldn't dare." Marcus turned toward the patient. "Security!" Dr. Crane screamed. 2 guards appeared in the doorway. "Stop that man! He's trying to kill my patient!" The guards moved forward. Marcus didn't stop. He located the second intercostal space on the colonel's chest. He positioned the needle. "Sir, step away from the patient." One of the guards reached for Marcus's arm. 5 seconds, Marcus said. "Give me 5 seconds." "Sir!" "Marcus!" David's voice was urgent. "Do it. We'll handle them." The guard grabbed Marcus's shoulder. And then something happened that no one in that trauma bay expected. Margaret, the 62-year-old nurse who had never raised her voice in 30 years, stepped between Marcus and the security guard. "Don't touch him," she said. "Ma'am, move aside." "I said, don't touch him." Margaret's voice was steel. "That man is trying to save a patient. If you stop him and the patient dies, you'll be held liable. Is that what you want?" The guard hesitated. It was enough. Marcus plunged the needle into the colonel's chest. Sssss. The sound of pressurized air escaping filled the room. Everyone froze. The monitor beeped. Once. Twice. Beep. 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 "Sinus rhythm," Chloe whispered. "Oh my God, sinus rhythm." The colonel's chest began to rise and fall evenly. His color started to return. His blood pressure climbed on the monitor. 80/50, 90/60, 100/70. He was alive. Marcus stumbled backward, the empty needle falling from his fingers. He caught himself on the edge of the crash cart, his legs suddenly weak. "He's alive. Hammer's alive." "You..." Dr. Crane's voice was trembling. "You..." She couldn't form words. Her face was purple with humiliation. Her hands were shaking. "He's stable," Marcus said quietly. "He needs a chest tube and surgical repair of the GSW wounds. But he's stable." Dr. Crane stared at him, and then she snapped. "You think this is over?" She stepped toward Marcus. "You think you've won something? You've just ended your career, your life, everything." "Dr. Crane," David started. "Shut up!" She spun on David, then back to Marcus. "You don't get to be a hero. You don't get to walk out of here with your head held high. You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing!" She was screaming now. Spittle flew from her lips. Her carefully constructed facade had crumbled, revealing the monster underneath. "I will make sure you never see your daughter again. I will call Child Protective Services. I will tell them you're unstable, that you're a danger to yourself and others. I will take everything from you." Marcus didn't respond. He was looking at the colonel, at the steady beep of the heart monitor, at the rise and fall of his chest. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Dr. Crane grabbed Marcus by the front of his scrubs and shoved him against the medicine cabinet. His head hit the metal with a dull thunk. "Dr. Crane!" David shouted. "Stop!" She didn't stop. She grabbed Marcus by the throat with both hands, slamming him against the cabinet again. "You worthless, pathetic excuse for a man," she hissed, her fingers digging into his neck. "You think you can humiliate me? Me? Do you know who my father is? Do you know what we've done to people like you?" Marcus couldn't breathe. Her thumbs were pressing against his windpipe. His vision started to blur. "I should have let your little brat die when I had the chance," Dr. Crane whispered, so quietly that only Marcus could hear. "Would have been doing the world a favor." Something broke inside Marcus Cole. Not his spirit, his restraint. For 3 months he had endured. He had swallowed his pride, his anger, his pain. He had let this woman degrade him, humiliate him, treat him like dirt. For Lily. All of it for Lily. But this, "I should have let your little brat die." The memory of Lily in that hospital bed flashed through his mind. Her pale face, her trembling voice. "Daddy, why was she so mean?" And suddenly, Marcus wasn't in Seattle Grace anymore. He was in the Korengal Valley. He was in the mountains of Syria. He was everywhere he had ever fought, everyone he had ever killed, everything he had ever survived. And the woman choking him wasn't a surgeon. She was a threat. His training took over. In one fluid motion, Marcus broke her grip. He grabbed her right wrist, applied pressure to the radial nerve, and twisted. Dr. Crane screamed. He swept her leg, and she went down hard, her back slamming against the linoleum floor. Before anyone could react, Marcus was on top of her, his knee on her chest, her arm twisted behind her back at an angle that made her shriek. "Don't move." His voice was unrecognizable, low, cold. The voice of a man who had killed before and would kill again without hesitation. "Get him off me!" Dr. Crane screamed. "Help! He's trying to kill me!" The security guards lunged forward. "Stop!" The shout came from the doorway. Everyone froze. Colonel James Morrison was awake. He was weak. He was pale. He had tubes coming out of his chest and an IV in his arm. But he was awake, and he was propping himself up on one elbow, staring at the scene before him. "Nobody touches him," the colonel rasped. "Sir, you need to lie down," a nurse started. "I said nobody touches him." The colonel's voice was hoarse but commanding. "That man just saved my life." And from what I saw, she had her hands around his throat. He looked at Dr. Crane, who was still pinned to the floor. "Is that how doctors treat nurses in this hospital?" Silence. Marcus released Dr. Crane's arm and stood up. She scrambled to her feet, her hair disheveled, Her face twisted with rage. "This isn't over," she spat. "You're both going to pay for this." She stormed out of the trauma bay, shoving past David and the other nurses. The room was silent. Marcus stood there, his chest heaving, his hands trembling. What did I just do? "Marcus," David's voice was gentle. "Are you okay?" Marcus looked at his hands, the hands that had just taken down a woman in front of a dozen witnesses, the hands that could have killed her. "I need air," he said. He walked out of the trauma bay, past the staring nurses, past the confused security guards, past the patients on their gurneys. He pushed through the emergency exit and stepped into the cold night air. The parking lot was empty. The ambulances sat silent. The only sound was the distant hum of the highway. Marcus leaned against the brick wall and slid down until he was sitting on the concrete. He pulled out his phone. Lily's face smiled at him from the lock screen. What have I done? He had just assaulted the chief of trauma surgery, the daughter of a United States senator, in front of witnesses. It didn't matter that she had attacked him first. It didn't matter that he was defending himself. The Cranes would spin it. They would twist it. They would destroy him. And when they were done, Lily would have no father, no insurance, no one to protect her. Marcus closed his eyes. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The emergency exit opened. Marcus looked up. Colonel Morrison stood there, leaning heavily on David Chen for support. He was still in his hospital gown, still connected to a portable oxygen tank, but he was standing. "You shouldn't be up," Marcus said. "Neither should you," the colonel replied. "But here we are." David helped the colonel sit down next to Marcus against the wall. "Give us a minute," the colonel said to David. David nodded and went back inside. For a long moment, the two men sat in silence. "Ghost," the colonel finally said. "That was your call sign, right? Back in the 75th? Marcus nodded. "I knew I recognized you." The colonel coughed, wincing at the pain in his chest. "Didn't recognize the face. But I recognized the way you move. Like a predator, pretending to be prey. What happened to you, sir? Who shot you?" "Long story. Classified, mostly. Let's just say some people from the old days aren't happy with some things I know." He paused. "But that's not important right now. What's important is what happens next. I'm going to prison. Maybe, maybe not." Marcus turned to look at his former commanding officer. "I just took down a senator's daughter in front of a dozen witnesses. There's no maybe about it. She attacked you first. I saw it. So did everyone else in that room. It won't matter. The Cranes have money, power, connections. They'll bury me." The colonel was quiet for a moment. "You remember what I told you in Kandahar?" he asked. "After the ambush at Firebase Phoenix, when you wanted to give up?" Marcus didn't answer. "I told you that the fight isn't over until you decide it's over. The enemy doesn't get to tell you when to quit. You do." The colonel reached over and gripped Marcus's shoulder. "This isn't the Korengal, son, but it's still a war. And you just fired the first shot." "I didn't want a war. I just wanted to keep my head down, keep my job, take care of my daughter." "I know. And that woman took advantage of that. She saw your restraint as weakness." The colonel's grip tightened. "But she was wrong. Restraint isn't weakness. It's strength. And what you did in there, saving my life, standing up to her, that took more courage than anything I've seen in a long time." Marcus felt something crack inside him. The wall he had built around his emotions, the barrier that had kept him functioning for the past 3 months, started to crumble. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Not for me, for Lily. If I go to prison, if I lose everything, she has no one. My mother died when I was overseas. Her mother left when she was 2. It's just me and Rose is 73 years old. She can't raise an 8-year-old with diabetes by herself. Then we make sure you don't go to prison. How? The colonel smiled. It was a grim smile, the kind that Marcus had seen before missions that everyone knew might be one-way trips. You have something Victoria Crane doesn't have, the colonel said. You have people who will stand with you. I saw those nurses in there. The way they looked at you, they're not afraid of her anymore. You gave them something tonight. What? Hope. The colonel leaned back against the wall. Now let me make a phone call. I still have friends in high places, higher than a senator from Washington state. He pulled out a phone. Marcus didn't know where he had gotten it, and dialed a number. This is Colonel Morrison, Code Black. I need to speak with General Hayes immediately. He paused. Yes, I'll hold. Marcus watched his former commander, this man who had been shot 3 times and had flatlined twice, make a phone call like it was just another Tuesday. Patricia, it's Hammer. Yes, I'm alive. Barely. He glanced at Marcus. Listen, I need a favor. A big one. How fast can you get a team to Seattle? Marcus didn't hear the rest of the conversation. He was looking at the emergency exit door. Through the small window, he could see the ER. The nurses moving around. David Chen talking to the other staff. The controlled chaos of a hospital at night. These people had stood up for him. Margaret, who had never raised her voice in 30 years. David, who had risked his career to gather witnesses. Chloe and Jessica and all the others who had watched and refused to look away. They had stood up, and now, for the first time in 3 months, Marcus Cole didn't feel like a ghost. He felt like a soldier. The colonel ended his call. General Hayes is mobilizing a team. They'll be here within the hour. Who is General Hayes? She's the head of the Army Medical Command, and more importantly, she's my ex-wife. The colonel chuckled, then winced at the pain. Don't look so surprised. Even old war horses like me had lives before the war. What's she going to do? She's going to make sure that the Seattle Police Department knows exactly who they're dealing with. And she's going to make sure that Victoria Crane's father knows exactly what kind of mess his daughter has made. And if that doesn't work? The colonel looked at Marcus with those hard, knowing eyes. Then we fight. Same as always. He gripped Marcus's shoulder one more time. You're not alone anymore, Ghost. You understand? You've got an army behind you now. Small, maybe. Scrappy. But an army. The emergency exit door opened again. David Chen stepped out. Marcus, he said, his voice urgent. The police are here. They're asking for you. Marcus stood up. His legs were steady. His hands had stopped shaking. Tell them I'll be right there. David nodded and went back inside. Marcus turned to the colonel. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. The hard part hasn't even started. The colonel struggled to his feet, leaning against the wall for support. Now go in there and face them. Head high, shoulders back, and remember what you are. What's that? A ranger, and rangers lead the way. Marcus took a deep breath. He walked back through the emergency exit, into the bright lights of the hospital, toward whatever was waiting for him. Behind him, Colonel Morrison watched him go, and despite the pain in his chest, despite the blood loss and the exhaustion, and the knowledge that someone had tried to kill him tonight, the old soldier smiled. That's my boy, he whispered. 2 uniformed officers stood in the middle of the ER, their hands resting on their belts. The older one, a sergeant with gray hair and tired eyes, was talking to the hospital administrator, a thin man in a rumpled suit who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Marcus walked toward them. The ER went quiet. Nurses stopped moving. Patients on gurneys turned their heads. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. "That's him," the administrator said, pointing at Marcus. "That's the man who assaulted Dr. Crane." The sergeant turned. His name tag read, Brady. He looked Marcus up and down, taking in the blood-stained scrubs, the bruises forming on his neck, the calm expression on his face. "Sir, are you Marcus Cole?" "I am." "I'm Sergeant Brady. We've received a complaint from Dr. Victoria Crane alleging that you physically assaulted her during a medical procedure. She claims you threw her to the ground and attempted to break her arm." "She's lying." The administrator stepped forward. "Now, wait just a minute. I'm not talking to you." Marcus kept his eyes on Brady. "Dr. Crane attacked me first. She grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against a cabinet. I defended myself. That's the truth." Brady's partner, a younger officer with a notepad, scribbled something down. "Do you have any witnesses to support your version of events?" Brady asked. "About a dozen of them." Marcus gestured toward the nurses' station, where David Chen and several other staff members were watching. "They all saw what happened." The administrator laughed nervously. "Sergeant, I can assure you that Dr. Crane is a respected physician. Her father is Senator William Crane. The idea that she would assault a nurse is absurd." "I didn't ask for your opinion," Brady said. His voice was neutral, professional, but Marcus caught something in his eyes, a flicker of doubt. "I asked for witnesses. We saw everything." David Chen stepped forward. Behind him, Chloe Martinez, Jessica Webb, and Margaret followed. "Dr. Crane put her hands around Mr. Cole's throat," David said. "She slammed him against the medicine cabinet twice. Her thumbs were pressing on his windpipe. He couldn't breathe." "That's a lie!" The administrator's face was turning red. "These nurses are clearly colluding to protect their colleague. Dr. Crane is the victim here." "I saw it too." The voice came from the doorway of Trauma Bay 1. Colonel Morrison stood there, supported by a nurse on each side. He was pale, weak, barely able to stand, but his voice carried the authority of 30 years of military command. "Who are you?" Brady asked. "Colonel James Morrison, United States Army, retired." "That woman," he pointed toward the administrator's office where Victoria Crane had retreated, "tried to let me die. This man saved my life. And when she realized she had been proven wrong, she attacked him." The administrator sputtered. "This is outrageous. Colonel, you were unconscious during the incident. You couldn't possibly—" "I woke up in time to see her hands around his throat." The colonel's eyes were hard. "I know what I saw." Brady looked at his partner. Something passed between them. "Sir," Brady said to Marcus, "I'm going to need you to come with us to the station to give a formal statement." "Am I under arrest?" Brady hesitated. "Not at this time, but Dr. Crane is pressing charges. We need to get your side of the story on the record." "Then I'll come willingly." The administrator stepped forward. "Sergeant, I must insist that this man be placed in handcuffs. He's dangerous. He has military training. He's cooperating." Brady cut him off. "That's enough." Marcus turned to David. "Call Rose. Tell her what happened. Tell her I'm okay. Tell her—" He paused. "Tell her to give Lily a kiss for me." David nodded, his eyes wet. "I will." Marcus walked toward the exit, Brady and his partner flanking him. As they passed the administrator's office, the door flew open. Victoria Crane emerged. She had cleaned herself up. Her hair was back in its severe ponytail. Her scrubs had been replaced with a pristine white coat. But her eyes were wild, feral, like a cornered animal. "Where do you think you're going?" she demanded. "Dr. Crane," Brady said. "We're taking Mr. Cole to the station for questioning." "Questioning?" she laughed, a high-pitched sound that made several nurses flinch. "He should be in handcuffs. He assaulted me. He threw me to the ground like an animal." "We're investigating the incident, ma'am. We'll take statements from all parties involved. I don't think you understand, Sergeant. Victoria stepped closer to Brady, her voice dropping to a dangerous purr. My father is Senator William Crane. He sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee. One phone call, and your career is over. Do you understand what I'm saying? Brady's jaw tightened. I understand perfectly, Dr. Crane, and I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Victoria's face twisted with rage. You're making a mistake. A very serious mistake. Maybe. But right now, I have a dozen witnesses who say you attacked this man first. I have a patient who corroborates their story. And I have you threatening a police officer. Brady met her gaze without flinching. So I suggest you step back and let us do our job. For a moment, Marcus thought Victoria would attack Brady. Her hands were clenched into fists, her body trembling with barely contained fury. Then a voice came from behind her. Victoria! Senator William Crane strode through the ER doors. He was tall, silver-haired, with a kind of commanding presence that filled a room. He wore a charcoal suit and a red tie, and his face was set in an expression of controlled anger. Father. Victoria's voice changed instantly, softer, more vulnerable. This man attacked me. He nearly broke my arm, and these police officers are letting him walk away. The senator looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back. Something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. Two predators sizing each other up. Officers, the senator said, his voice smooth as silk. I appreciate your diligence, but I think there's been a misunderstanding here. My daughter is the victim of a violent assault, and the perpetrator is being treated like a witness. Surely you can see how that might appear. Senator, we're following procedure. Procedure, the senator smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Of course. Procedure. He pulled out his phone. I wonder what Chief Morrison would think about your procedure. We're having dinner tomorrow night. Should I mention this incident? Brady's partner shifted uncomfortably, but Brady didn't move. You can mention whatever you like, Senator. We're still taking Mr. Cole to the station for questioning, and we'll be taking statements from the witnesses here as well. He paused. All of them. The senator's smile flickered. Including, Brady continued, the patient who claims he witnessed your daughter assault Mr. Cole. That patient was barely conscious. He's a colonel in the United States Army. I'm sure his testimony will carry some weight. For the first time, Marcus saw something flicker across the senator's face. Fear. It was gone in an instant, replaced by that practiced political mask. But Marcus had seen it. We'll see about that, the senator said. Victoria, don't say another word. I'm calling our attorneys. He pulled his daughter aside, speaking rapidly into his phone. Brady touched Marcus's arm. Let's go. They walked out of the ER into the cold night air. A squad car was waiting in the ambulance bay. Brady opened the back door. You handled yourself well in there, Brady said quietly. Most people would have lost their cool. I've dealt with worse. Brady studied him for a moment. I bet you have. He glanced back at the hospital. For what it's worth, I've heard stories about Dr. Crane. Complaints that went nowhere. Nurses who quit rather than work with her. Staff who were fired for speaking up. He shook his head. Nobody's ever had the guts to fight back. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Brady gestured toward the car. Get in. Let's get your statement on record before the senator's lawyers start making phone calls. Marcus climbed into the back of the squad car. As they pulled out of the ambulance bay, he looked back at Seattle Grace Memorial. Through the glass doors, he could see the nurses gathered in the lobby. David, Chloe, Margaret, Jessica, a dozen others he barely knew. They were watching the squad car drive away. And they weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were standing together. For the first time in 3 months, Marcus Cole felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The interrogation room at the 4th Precinct was exactly what Marcus expected. Gray walls, flickering lights, a metal table bolted to the floor, a two-way mirror that everyone knew was a two-way mirror. Marcus sat in a hard plastic chair, his hands folded on the table in front of him. Brady sat across from him, a recorder between them. "For the record, state your full name." "Marcus Andrew Cole." "And your occupation?" "Registered nurse at Seattle Grace Memorial Hospital." "Mr. Cole, can you describe the events that occurred tonight in the emergency room?" Marcus took a breath, and he told the truth. He told Brady about the colonel arriving with multiple gunshot wounds, about recognizing him as his former commanding officer, about the tension pneumothorax that Dr. Crane missed, about her refusal to listen, about the flatline, about his decision to act. "I performed a needle decompression," Marcus said. "It's a standard emergency procedure for a tension pneumothorax. Dr. Crane's diagnosis was wrong. If I hadn't intervened, Colonel Morrison would be dead." "And then what happened?" "Dr. Crane was angry. She confronted me, called me names, threatened my job, my license, my daughter." Marcus paused. "Then she grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the medicine cabinet." "Did you provoke her in any way?" "I saved her patient's life. If that's a provocation, then yes." Brady suppressed a smile. "What happened after she grabbed you?" "She squeezed. I couldn't breathe. She said—" Marcus hesitated. "What did she say?" "She said she should have let my daughter die when she had the chance." Brady's pen stopped moving. "Your daughter?" "Lily. She's 8 years old. Type 1 diabetic. 3 days ago, she was brought into Seattle Grace with a hypoglycemic crisis. Dr. Crane was the attending physician." Marcus's voice tightened. "She saved Lily's life. But she also made her cry, called her a burden, called me worthless. And tonight, when she mentioned your daughter, something broke." Marcus looked at Brady. "I've been to war, Sergeant. I've seen things that would give you nightmares for the rest of your life. I've killed men with my bare hands. But I've never lost control, not once." He paused. "Tonight, when she threatened Lily, I lost control." "What did you do?" "I broke her grip, applied a joint lock to her wrist, swept her leg, took her to the ground, and immobilized her." "Did you strike her?" "No." "Did you attempt to harm her?" "No. I used the minimum force necessary to stop the threat." Brady leaned back in his chair. "The minimum force necessary. That's a very specific phrase." "It's what they taught us in the Army." "What unit were you with?" 75th Ranger Regiment." Brady's eyebrows rose. "Rangers?" "Yes, sir." "And after your service?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "That's classified." "Classified?" "I was attached to units that don't officially exist, Sergeant. I did things that will never be acknowledged. And when it was over, they sent me home with a medical discharge and a recommendation to find a low-stress job." He smiled bitterly. Nursing seemed like a good fit. Before Brady could respond, the door to the interrogation room burst open. A woman strode in. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of a 2-star general in the United States Army, and she walked like someone who was used to having doors opened for her. Behind her came 2 military police officers. "General Hayes," Brady said, standing up. "I wasn't expecting—" "I'm sure you weren't." The general looked at Marcus. "Staff Sergeant Cole, you've caused quite a stir tonight." Marcus stood at attention. "General?" "At ease." She turned to Brady. "Sergeant, I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt your interrogation." Mr. Cole is a former member of a classified military unit. His records are sealed, and his testimony regarding tonight's events falls under the jurisdiction of military intelligence. With all due respect, General, this is a civilian matter. Is it? The General pulled a folder from under her arm and tossed it on the table. Colonel James Morrison was shot tonight, 3 times. He's currently recovering at Seattle Grace Memorial, thanks to Mr. Cole's intervention. What you might not know is that Colonel Morrison was on his way to deliver classified intelligence to the Pentagon when he was ambushed. Brady's face went pale. Ambushed? The shooting wasn't random, Sergeant. It was an assassination attempt, and the people responsible are still out there. She looked at Marcus. Which is why I need Mr. Cole released into my custody immediately. General, I can't just— Yes, you can. The General's voice was steel. I've already spoken with your Chief of Police. He's agreed to transfer jurisdiction to the Army Criminal Investigation Division. Your department will receive full credit for your cooperation. She smiled thinly. I'd call that a win-win. Brady looked at Marcus. Marcus looked back. Go, Brady said quietly. But Cole, whatever happens next, I hope you nail those bastards to the wall. Thank you, Sergeant. Marcus followed General Hayes out of the interrogation room. The 2 MPs fell in behind them. They walked through the precinct, past the booking desk, past the holding cells, out into the parking lot, where a black SUV with government plates was waiting. General Hayes climbed into the back seat. Marcus followed. The doors closed. The SUV pulled away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then the general said, James told me about you. Colonel Morrison? We were married for 12 years, divorced for 15, but we still talk. She looked at Marcus with those sharp, assessing eyes. He said you were the best combat medic he ever served with. Said you saved his life 3 times in Kandahar. He saved mine first. He also said you were stubborn as hell and had a death wish. Marcus didn't respond. What happened tonight, Cole? The real version. Marcus told her everything. The months of abuse, the threats, Lily's hospitalization, the confrontation in the trauma bay, the moment when Victoria Crane's hands closed around his throat. When he finished, the general was quiet for a long time. Victoria Crane, she finally said. The senator's daughter. Yes, ma'am. Do you know what you've stepped into, Cole? No, ma'am. The Cranes aren't just politicians. They're connected to some very powerful people. Defense contractors, intelligence agencies, foreign governments. She paused. Senator Crane has been under investigation by the Army for the past 2 years. We believe he's been selling classified information to hostile foreign powers. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. What? Colonel Morrison was bringing us proof, recordings, documents, names. The general's jaw tightened. Somebody found out. Somebody tried to kill him before he could deliver the evidence. Do you think the senator— I don't think anything yet. But I find it very interesting that his daughter attacked the man who saved the colonel's life. She looked at Marcus. Don't you? The SUV pulled into the parking lot of Seattle Grace Memorial. Marcus saw the news vans first. A dozen of them, parked in a row, their satellite dishes pointed at the sky. Reporters milled around the entrance, cameras at the ready. What's happening? Marcus asked. The senator called a press conference. The general checked her watch. It starts in 10 minutes. He's going to paint you as a violent, unstable veteran who attacked his innocent daughter. And what are we going to do? The general smiled. It was the kind of smile that made enemies nervous. We're going to let him talk. And then we're going to show them the truth. She handed Marcus a tablet. On the screen was security footage from Trauma Bay 1. Marcus watched as Dr. Victoria Crane grabbed him by the throat. He watched as she slammed him against the cabinet. He watched as her thumbs pressed into his windpipe. "Where did you get this?" "The hospital's security system backs up to an off-site server." The Cranes didn't know about it. The general took the tablet back. "We also have the medical records. 10 years of malpractice suits, wrongful death settlements, patients who died because of Victoria Crane's incompetence, buried under her father's money." Marcus stared at her. 10 years? 47 cases, 12 confirmed deaths, all sealed under non-disclosure agreements. The general's voice was hard. "That woman isn't just arrogant, Cole. She's dangerous. And her father has been protecting her for a decade." The SUV stopped near the hospital's service entrance. "Here's what's going to happen," the general said. "You're going to go back inside. You're going to check on Colonel Morrison. And when the senator finishes his press conference, we're going to crash the party." "How?" "Leave that to me." She handed Marcus an earpiece. "Put this in. Stay in contact. And Cole?" "Yes, ma'am?" "Whatever happens in there, don't lose your temper. We need you calm. We need you professional. Can you do that?" Marcus thought of Lily, of the promise he had made to always be there for her. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Now go." Marcus climbed out of the SUV and entered the hospital through the service door. The hallways were chaos. Staff members rushing back and forth, security guards posted at every corner, reporters trying to sneak past the checkpoints. Marcus kept his head down and made his way to the VIP wing on the 4th floor. 2 MPs stood guard outside Colonel Morrison's room. "Staff Sergeant Cole," one of them said. "The colonel's expecting you." They let him pass. Inside, Colonel Morrison lay in the hospital bed, looking better than he had an hour ago. Color had returned to his face. His eyes were clear and alert. "Ghost," the colonel smiled weakly. "Heard you caused quite a scene downstairs." "Sorry about that, sir." "Don't be. Victoria Crane deserved worse." He gestured to the chair beside the bed. "Sit. We need to talk." Marcus sat. "Patricia told you about the investigation?" "Yes, sir." "Then you know what's at stake. If the senator gets away with this, a lot of good people are going to die. Soldiers, intelligence officers, people who trusted us to protect them." "What do you need me to do?" The colonel reached under his pillow and pulled out a flash drive. "This is everything. Names, dates, recordings of Senator Crane negotiating with foreign agents, bank records showing the payments." He pressed the drive into Marcus's hand. "If something happens to me, this needs to get to the right people." "Nothing's going to happen to you, sir." "You don't know that, and neither do I." The colonel's grip tightened. "Promise me, Ghost. Promise me you'll see this through." Marcus looked at the flash drive. Such a small thing, a few grams of plastic and metal. But it contained the power to bring down a senator, expose a conspiracy, and protect thousands of lives. "I promise." The colonel relaxed. "Good. Now turn on the TV. I want to see the bastard squirm." Marcus found the remote and turned on the television mounted on the wall. The screen showed the hospital atrium, transformed into a press conference. Senator William Crane stood at a podium, flanked by his daughter and a team of lawyers. Behind them, the hospital board members sat in a row, their faces carefully neutral. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," the senator began, his voice dripping with practiced sincerity. "I come to you today as a father whose daughter was violently attacked in the very hospital where she dedicates her life to saving others." Marcus's jaw tightened. "My daughter, Dr. Victoria Crane, is one of the finest trauma surgeons in the Pacific Northwest. She has saved countless lives. She has given everything to her profession. And tonight, She was the victim of a brutal, unprovoked assault by a man she trusted. The senator paused, letting the cameras capture his grief-stricken expression. The attacker, Marcus Cole, is a former soldier suffering from severe PTSD. We have learned that he has a history of violent outbursts. He was medically discharged from the Army under circumstances that remain classified. And tonight, he snapped. "He's lying," Marcus whispered. "Of course he is," the colonel said. "That's what politicians do." "We are calling for an immediate investigation," the senator continued. "We are calling for Mr. Cole's nursing license to be revoked. And we are calling for him to be charged with felony assault." He stepped back from the podium. Victoria Crane stepped forward. She had changed again. Now she wore a simple black dress. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. Her arm was in a sling. "I trusted Marcus Cole," Victoria said, her voice trembling. "I gave him a chance when other hospitals wouldn't, and he repaid me by trying to break my arm in front of my colleagues." She wiped a tear from her cheek. "I'm not angry. I'm heartbroken. This man needs help. He needs treatment for his mental illness, and I pray that he gets it before he hurts someone else." Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. "Easy," the colonel warned. On the screen, a reporter raised his hand. "Dr. Crane, what about the allegations that you attacked Mr. Cole first? Multiple witnesses claim they saw you grab him by the throat." Victoria's expression flickered, just for a moment. "Those allegations are completely false. Mr. Cole is clearly manipulating vulnerable staff members to support his delusions. My father and I will be pursuing defamation charges against anyone who spreads these lies." "Dr. Crane, what about the patient who was in the trauma bay during the incident? Colonel James Morrison. He's reportedly stated that you, Colonel Morrison, was barely conscious." The senator stepped back to the microphone. "He was suffering from severe blood loss and trauma. His testimony is unreliable at best." "Actually, Senator, I'm feeling much better now." The voice came from the back of the atrium. Every head turned. Colonel James Morrison stood in the doorway, dressed in a hospital gown and a robe, supported by 2 military police officers. Behind him stood General Patricia Hayes, and behind her stood a dozen nurses from Seattle Grace Memorial. David Chen, Chloe Martinez, Margaret, Jessica Webb, and others. So many others. They walked into the atrium together. "What is the meaning of this?" the senator demanded. "Security! Remove these people immediately!" The security guards didn't move. "They work for me now," General Hayes said, stepping forward. "As of 10 minutes ago, this hospital is under federal jurisdiction, pending an investigation into medical malpractice, fraud, and conspiracy." The senator's face went white. "This is outrageous. You have no authority." "I have all the authority I need." General Hayes nodded to one of the MPs. "Sergeant, if you please." The MP walked to the massive LED screen behind the podium. He plugged in a cable. The screen flickered, and then, larger than life, the security footage began to play. The footage showed Victoria Crane grabbing Marcus Cole by the throat. It showed her slamming him against the cabinet. It showed her fingers digging into his neck. The audio was crystal clear. "Know your place, Daddy Daycare. This is my trauma bay." Gasps erupted from the crowd. "I should have let your little brat die when I had the chance." Victoria Crane's face crumbled. The senator lunged for the screen. "Turn that off! Turn it off!" But the footage kept playing. And then it changed. Documents began scrolling across the screen. Medical records, settlement agreements, death certificates. Case 402, wrongful death, surgical negligence. Surgeon, Victoria Crane. Settlement, $2.5 million. Case 519, Amputation of wrong limb. Surgeon, Victoria Crane. Settlement, $3.1 million. Case 660, lethal medication overdose. Surgeon, Victoria Crane. Status, scrubbed from records. The reporters were going crazy. Cameras flashing, questions shouting. Chaos. Victoria Crane stood frozen, her face a mask of horror. Senator William Crane turned to his lawyers, his bodyguards, anyone who could help. But there was no help coming. General Hayes stepped up to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, I am General Patricia Hayes, United States Army Medical Command. What you are seeing is evidence of a decade-long cover-up orchestrated by Senator William Crane to protect his daughter from the consequences of her incompetence. She turned to face the Cranes. Senator Crane, you are under investigation for fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. Dr. Victoria Crane, you are under arrest for assault, medical malpractice, and negligent homicide. Two MPs moved toward Victoria. She stumbled backward. Father, do something! The senator opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, William Crane had nothing to say. The MPs took Victoria by the arms. "You can't do this!" she screamed. "Do you know who I am? Do you know who my father is?" "I know exactly who you are," General Hayes said. "You're a bully who finally met someone who wouldn't back down." She nodded toward the door, and there, standing among the nurses, was Marcus Cole. Victoria's eyes met his. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I will destroy you. I will take everything you love, your job, your daughter, everything." Marcus walked toward her. The MPs tensed, but Marcus didn't raise his hand. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her, with those dark, quiet eyes. "You already tried," he said softly, "and you failed." He turned away. The MPs led Victoria Crane out of the atrium. Her screams echoed through the hospital long after she was gone. The atrium erupted into chaos the moment Victoria Crane was dragged through the doors. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Camera flashes exploded like artillery fire. The hospital board members scattered like roaches when the lights come on, desperately trying to avoid being associated with a scandal. Senator William Crane stood alone at the podium, his face ashen, his hands gripping the wood so hard his knuckles had turned white. General Hayes approached him slowly, deliberately, like a predator savoring the moment before the kill. "Senator Crane," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, "I suggest you step away from the podium." "You can't do this." His voice was barely a whisper. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The people I know, the power I have. I will bury you. I will bury all of you." "Is that a threat, Senator?" "It's a promise." General Hayes smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Senator, let me tell you what's going to happen in the next 24 hours. The FBI is going to seize your financial records. The Army Criminal Investigation Division is going to interview every person who ever signed one of your non-disclosure agreements. And the Justice Department is going to convene a grand jury to hear testimony about your daughter's medical malpractice and your role in covering it up." She leaned closer. "But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that Colonel Morrison has evidence linking you to the sale of classified military intelligence to foreign governments. Treason, Senator. The penalty for treason is death." The senator's face went from white to gray. That's impossible. I never. Save it for your lawyers." General Hayes nodded to the MPs. "Take him." Two military police officers stepped forward. Senator Crane stumbled backward. "Don't touch me. I'm a United States Senator. I have immunity. You have nothing. General Hayes's voice was ice. Your immunity was revoked 2 hours ago by emergency order of the Senate Ethics Committee. You're not a senator anymore, William. You're just a criminal. The MPS grabbed his arms. "This is a coup!" Crane screamed as they dragged him toward the door. "This is a military coup! Someone call the press! Call the—" The doors closed behind him. The atrium fell silent. For a long moment, no one moved. Then David Chen started to clap. It was slow at first, hesitant, the sound of one pair of hands coming together in the vast echoing space. But then Chloe Martinez joined him, and then Margaret, and then Jessica Webb. One by one, the nurses of Seattle Grace Memorial began to applaud. The sound grew from a trickle to a stream to a roar. The reporters joined in. The patients on their gurneys. The janitors and orderlies and cafeteria workers who had slipped in to watch. They weren't applauding for General Hayes, or the military police, or the dramatic takedown of a corrupt senator. They were applauding for themselves, for finally standing up, for finally fighting back. Marcus Cole stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed. He had never wanted this, never wanted to be a hero, never wanted to be the center of attention. He just wanted to do his job, take care of his daughter, and survive another day. But looking at the faces around him, the nurses who had risked their careers to tell the truth, the colleagues who had stood shoulder to shoulder against the most powerful family in Seattle, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not the arrogant pride of victory, but the quiet pride of belonging. These people had stood up for him, and he would never forget it. Colonel Morrison appeared at his side, still leaning on his IV pole for support, but grinning like a man who had just won a war. "Hell of a night, Ghost."
"You should be in bed, sir. I've been shot 3 times, nearly died twice, and watched a senator get perp-walked out of a hospital. Sleep can wait."
The colonel clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "You did good tonight. Your father would have been proud." Marcus's throat tightened. His father had been a Marine, 2 tours in Vietnam, dead from cancer when Marcus was 17. He never talked about him. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me. Thank them." The colonel nodded toward the nurses. "They're the ones who made this possible. You gave them courage. They gave you an army." Marcus looked at David, who was wiping tears from his eyes. At Margaret, who stood with her arms crossed and the satisfied smile on her face. At Chloe and Jessica, hugging each other and laughing with relief. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now?" The colonel shrugged. "Now the lawyers take over. Trials, depositions, congressional hearings. It's going to be a circus for months." He paused. "But for you, for tonight, it's over. Go home, see your daughter, get some rest." "I can't just leave. That's an order, Staff Sergeant." Marcus hesitated. "Marcus," David appeared beside him. "Go. We've got this. Rose called 3 times already. Lily's awake and asking for you." The mention of Lily's name cut through everything else. "Okay," Marcus said. "Okay, I'll go." He started walking toward the exit. The crowd parted for him. People reached out to touch his arm, to shake his hand, to whisper words of thanks. A patient in a wheelchair grabbed his hand and wouldn't let go until Marcus bent down to hear what she wanted to say. "My grandson served in Afghanistan," the old woman said, her voice trembling. "He came back broken, couldn't hold a job, couldn't sleep. His wife left him. Last year he—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "What you did tonight, standing up like that, it gives me hope. Hope that maybe things can change. Maybe people like you can make a difference." Marcus didn't know what to say. "Thank you for your grandson's service, ma'am." "No, She squeezed his hand. "Thank you for yours." Marcus walked out of the hospital into the cold night air. The parking lot was a circus of police cars, news vans, and government vehicles. Helicopters circled overhead, their spotlights cutting through the darkness. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear Victoria Crane screaming as she was loaded into an armored transport. He ignored all of it. He found his car, a 15-year-old Honda Civic with a dented fender and a cracked windshield, and climbed inside. For a moment, he just sat there. His hands were shaking, not from fear, not from adrenaline, but from the overwhelming weight of everything that had happened. 12 hours ago, he had been a nobody, a ghost, a man who mopped floors and changed bedpans and let a bully treat him like dirt. Now he didn't know what he was. He started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. The drive to Rose's house took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of dark streets and quiet neighborhoods and the low hum of the radio playing songs he didn't hear. When he pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. Rose was waiting at the door. She was 73 years old, with white hair and kind eyes, and the kind of strength that only comes from a lifetime of hardship. She had raised 5 children, buried a husband, and survived a cancer diagnosis that should have killed her. She was the closest thing to family Marcus had left. "Marcus." She opened her arms. He walked into them. For a long moment, they just stood there on the porch, holding each other. "I saw the news," Rose whispered. "I saw everything." "I'm sorry. I should have called. I should have—" "Hush." She pulled back and looked at him with those sharp, knowing eyes. "You did what needed to be done. That woman was a monster. Everyone knew it. Nobody had the courage to stop her." She touched his face. "Until you." "I almost lost everything, Rose. My job, my license, Lily." "But you didn't," she smiled. "You didn't lose anything. You gained something. Something important." "What?" "Your self-respect." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. His self-respect. He had given it up 3 months ago when he walked through the doors of Seattle Grace Memorial. He had traded it for a paycheck and health insurance and the illusion of security. He had let Victoria Crane strip it away piece by piece, insult by insult, degradation by degradation. But tonight he had taken it back. "Daddy?" The small voice came from inside the house. Marcus looked up. Lily stood in the doorway, wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with the unicorns and rainbows, and holding her stuffed elephant. Her eyes were heavy with sleep, but she was smiling. "Hey, baby girl." He walked toward her and knelt down, opening his arms. She ran into them. "Grandma Rose said you were a hero tonight," Lily said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. "I don't know about that." "She said you saved a soldier's life, and you stopped a bad lady from hurting people." Marcus closed his eyes. He held his daughter tight, feeling her small heart beat against his chest. "I just did what was right, sweetheart. That's all." "That's what heroes do, Daddy." She pulled back and looked at him with those big, innocent eyes. "That's what you told me. You said heroes are people who do the right thing, even when it's scary." Marcus felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "When did you get so smart?" "I'm 8. 8-year-olds know everything." He laughed. It was the first real laugh he'd had in months. "Come on," Rose said, ushering them inside. "It's late. Both of you need sleep." Marcus carried Lily to her room. He tucked her into bed, pulled the covers up to her chin, and kissed her forehead.
"Daddy,
"Yes, baby girl."
are you going to be okay?"
The question was so simple, so innocent, and yet it cut right to the heart of everything. "Yeah," Marcus said. I think I'm going to be okay.
Promise?
Pinky promise. She held out her little finger. He wrapped his around it.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you more.
I love you most.
She closed her eyes. Within seconds, she was asleep. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, watching her breathe, watching the rise and fall of her chest, watching the peaceful expression on her face. This was why he had endured. This was why he had survived. Not for himself. Never for himself. For her. He leaned down and whispered in her ear, "I'm going to make things better, Lily. I promise. From now on, everything is going to be different." He turned off the light and closed the door. Rose was waiting for him in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. "You should sleep," she said. "I can't. Too much going on in my head."
Then talk to me.
Marcus sat down at the kitchen table. He wrapped his hands around the warm mug and stared into the dark liquid. "I don't know who I am anymore, Rose." "What do you mean?" "For 3 months, I pretended to be someone I'm not. I pretended to be weak, scared, invisible. I let people walk all over me because I thought that was the only way to survive. And now? Now I don't know." He looked up at her. "Tonight, when Victoria Crane had her hands around my throat, something happened. Something switched on inside me. All the training, all the instincts I thought I had buried, they came back in an instant." "That's not a bad thing, Marcus." "It could be. I could have killed her, Rose. If she had held on for another few seconds, if she had said one more thing about Lily, I don't know what I would have done." Rose reached across the table and took his hand. "But you didn't kill her. You controlled yourself. You used only the force you needed to stop her."
That's not a monster, Marcus. That's a protector.
"I don't feel like a protector. I feel like a fraud."
Why?
"Because for 3 months, I didn't protect anyone. I let that woman terrorize the staff. I watched her abuse nurses and residents and patients. I saw the fear in their eyes every time she walked into a room. And I did nothing."
You survived, Rose said firmly. There's no shame in that. You had a child to think about, responsibilities. You made a calculated decision to keep your head down until you could find a better option.
But
Nothing.
Rose squeezed his hand.
The measure of a man isn't whether he falls down. It's whether he gets back up. Tonight, you got back up. You stood up for what was right. You inspired others to do the same. That's not nothing, Marcus. That's everything.
Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "She said something to me," he finally said. "Victoria. When she had me pinned against the cabinet, she said she should have let Lily die when she had the chance." Rose's face hardened.
That evil woman.
"I've heard a lot of terrible things in my life, Rose. I've seen things that would give most people nightmares. But that," he shook his head, "that was the worst. Not because it was violent or graphic, but because she meant it. She looked me in the eye, and she meant every word."
And what did you feel?
Rage. Pure, white-hot rage. The kind I haven't felt since Afghanistan. He looked at Rose. I wanted to hurt her. I wanted to make her suffer. For what she did to me. For what she did to Lily. For what she did to everyone at that hospital.
But you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Marcus thought about it. "Because that's not who I am anymore," he said slowly. "The man I was in the army. He could have killed her without blinking. He was trained to neutralize threats, eliminate enemies, complete the mission at any cost. But that man isn't who Lily needs. He isn't who I want to be." "So who do you want to be?" Marcus looked toward Lily's room. "I want to be her father. A good father. Someone she can look up to. Someone who does the right thing, even when it's hard. He paused. Tonight, I think I took a step in that direction. Rose smiled. I think you did too. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their coffee, listening to the quiet sounds of the house settling. Then Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. It was a text from David Chen. Thought you'd want to know. Colonel Morrison is stable. General Hayes has taken over administration of the hospital pending investigation. And guess what? They're already talking about making you the new charge nurse for the ER. Marcus stared at the message. What is it? Rose asked. They want to promote me. Of course they do. You're a hero. I'm not, Marcus. Rose's voice was firm. Stop. Just stop. I know you don't think of yourself that way. I know you spent years in the military being told that heroes are the ones who don't come home. But tonight, you saved a man's life. You exposed a corrupt system. You gave hope to people who had none. If that's not heroic, I don't know what is. Marcus didn't respond. He was thinking about the nurses who had stood up with him, about Margaret, who had never raised her voice in 30 years, about David, who had risked everything to be a witness, about Chloe and Jessica and all the others who had blocked Victoria's escape. It wasn't just me, he said. It was all of them. They stood up. They fought back. Without them, I'd be in a jail cell right now. And who inspired them to do that? Marcus didn't have an answer. You did, Marcus. Whether you like it or not, you're a leader. You always have been. The Army saw it. Colonel Morrison saw it. And tonight, those nurses saw it. Rose stood up and kissed the top of his head. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. She walked to her room and closed the door. Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table. He pulled the flash drive from his pocket, the one Colonel Morrison had given him. The evidence that would bring down Senator Crane. The proof of treason, corruption, and murder. He should give it to General Hayes. He should let the military handle it. But something nagged at him. The senator had been under investigation for 2 years. 2 years, and nothing had happened. The Cranes had connections, power, resources. They had bought off judges, intimidated witnesses, buried evidence. What if they did it again? What if all of this, the arrest, the press conference, the exposure, was just a temporary setback? What if the Cranes had allies Marcus didn't know about? What if they found a way to wriggle out of this? Marcus couldn't let that happen. He had made a promise to Colonel Morrison, a promise to see this through. He looked at the flash drive. Tomorrow, he would make copies. He would send them to every news outlet in the country. He would make sure that the truth couldn't be buried, no matter how powerful the Cranes' friends were. But tonight, he would sleep. He walked to the living room and lay down on the couch. He didn't bother with a blanket. He didn't bother turning off the lights. He just closed his eyes. And for the first time in months, Marcus Cole slept without nightmares. The morning sun was streaming through the windows when Marcus woke up. He sat up slowly, his body aching from the events of the night before. His neck was sore where Victoria had choked him. His shoulder was bruised from hitting the cabinet. His muscles were stiff from the adrenaline crash. But he was alive, and that was something. His phone was blowing up with messages. Texts from numbers he didn't recognize. Voicemails from reporters. Emails from lawyers and journalists and people claiming to be his long-lost friends. He ignored all of it. He walked to the kitchen, where Rose was making breakfast. "Pancakes," she said. "Lily's request." As if on cue, Lily came running into the kitchen, still in her unicorn pajamas. "Daddy, you're awake!" She launched herself at him. He caught her and swung her up onto his hip. "Good morning, baby girl."
Grandma Rose said you saved a soldier's life, and you put a bad lady in jail, and you're going to be on the news."
Marcus shot Rose a look. Rose shrugged.
"The TV was on. She saw." "Daddy, are you famous now?"
"I hope not."
"I told all my friends at school. Well, I texted them, because it's Saturday, but they're all super impressed."
Lily beamed at him.
"Emma said her dad is an accountant, and he never saved anybody."
Marcus laughed. "Well, accountants are important too."
"Not as important as you."
She hugged him tight. Marcus held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her small arms around his neck. This was what mattered. This was what he had fought for. Not glory, not recognition, not revenge. Just this. Just her.
"Daddy?"
"Yes, baby girl?"
"Can we go to the park today? You promised we would go when you had a day off."
Marcus hesitated. He had 100 things to do. Calls to return, statements to give, evidence to secure. But then he looked at Lily's face, at the hope in her eyes, at the innocent joy of a child who just wanted to spend time with her father. "Yeah," he said, "we can go to the park."
"Yay!"
She squirmed out of his arms and ran back to her room to get dressed. Rose smiled at him over the stove. "You're a good father, Marcus." "I'm trying." "That's all any of us can do." They ate breakfast together, pancakes with too much syrup, just the way Lily liked them. They laughed and talked, and for a little while, Marcus forgot about everything else. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen. General Hayes. "I need to take this," he said. He stepped onto the back porch and answered. "Cole." "Staff Sergeant, I hope I'm not interrupting." "No, ma'am. What do you need?" "I wanted to update you on the situation. Senator Crane is in federal custody. He's been arraigned on charges of espionage, fraud, and obstruction of justice. His bail was set at $50 million. He couldn't make it." Marcus felt a grim satisfaction. "And Victoria?" "State custody. She's facing charges of assault, medical malpractice, and negligent homicide. The DA is adding new charges by the hour as more victims come forward." "Good." "There's something else." General Hayes paused. "The military would like to offer you a position." "What kind of position?" "We're putting together a new medical rapid response team. Soldiers with combat medical experience who can operate in hostile environments. We need someone to lead it. Someone with your skills, your training, your judgment." Marcus was silent. "It would mean coming back to active duty. Full rank restoration. All the benefits. Your daughter would be taken care of." "I appreciate the offer, General. But I made a promise to someone. A promise that I would be there for her. That I wouldn't leave again." "Your daughter?" "Yes, ma'am." General Hayes was quiet for a moment. "I understand. The offer stands if you ever change your mind." She paused. "For what it's worth, Cole, you did something remarkable last night. You showed a lot of people what courage looks like. Don't underestimate the impact of that." "Thank you, General." "Take care of yourself, Staff Sergeant, and take care of that little girl." She hung up. Marcus stood on the porch, looking out at the backyard. The sun was warm on his face. The birds were singing in the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. It was a beautiful morning, and for the first time in a long time, Marcus Cole felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be.
"Daddy, I'm ready."
Lily burst through the back door, dressed in her favorite pink dress and her sneakers with the light-up soles. "Let's go, let's go, let's go!" Marcus smiled. "Okay, baby girl, let's go." He took her hand, and together they walked out into the sunlight. The park was quiet that Saturday morning. Marcus pushed Lily on the swings while she laughed, her pigtails flying behind her like streamers. The sun was warm, the sky was blue, and for a few precious hours, the rest of the world didn't exist. "Higher, Daddy, higher!" "Any higher and you'll touch the clouds, baby girl." "I want to touch the clouds." Marcus pushed harder. Lily squealed with delight. This was peace. This was what he had been fighting for all along. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. "Daddy, your phone is being annoying." "I know, sweetheart. Just ignore it." But the buzzing wouldn't stop. Marcus finally pulled out his phone and glanced at the screen. 17 missed calls, 42 text messages, all in the last hour. Most of them were from David Chen. The most recent text read, "Turn on the news, now." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Lily, baby, I need to check something real quick. Can you play on the slide for a minute?" "Okay, Daddy." She jumped off the swing and ran toward the playground equipment. Marcus opened his news app. The headline hit him like a physical blow. Breaking. Senator Crane found dead in federal custody. Apparent suicide. Marcus stared at the screen. Dead. William Crane was dead. He scrolled through the article. The senator had been found in his cell at 6:47 a.m. He had used his bedsheets to hang himself from the light fixture. The guards had discovered him during a routine check. Attempts to resuscitate him had failed. Marcus felt nothing. He should have felt something. Relief, satisfaction, maybe even pity. But there was nothing. Just a hollow emptiness where emotion should have been. His phone rang. Colonel Morrison. "You saw the news," the colonel said without preamble. "Just now." "It wasn't suicide, Marcus." Marcus's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean that William Crane had too much to live for. He had money, power, the best lawyers in the country. He was already planning his defense strategy. Men like him don't kill themselves. They fight to the bitter end." "You think he was murdered?" "I think he knew things that certain people didn't want coming out at trial. The intelligence he sold, the foreign governments he worked with, the names of his contacts." The colonel paused. Someone decided he was a liability. Marcus looked at Lily, who was climbing the slide with 2 other children. "What does this mean for the investigation?" "It means we need to move fast. With the senator dead, his allies will try to bury everything. They'll claim he was the sole bad actor. They'll destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, do whatever it takes to protect themselves." "What can I do?" "The flash drive I gave you. Do you still have it?" "Yes." "Make copies. Send them everywhere. News outlets, congressional oversight committees, international press. Make sure the truth can't be buried." "I was already planning to do that." "Good." The colonel coughed. He was still recovering from his wounds. "There's something else. General Hayes called me this morning. She said the hospital board is meeting on Monday to discuss the future of Seattle Grace. They're going to need new leadership, new direction." He paused. "Your name came up." "My name?" "As the new director of emergency services." Marcus almost dropped the phone. "That's insane. I'm a nurse. I've been there 3 months. I mop floors." "You also saved a colonel's life, exposed a decade of corruption, and inspired an entire staff to stand up against tyranny. Those aren't qualifications you find on a resume." The colonel's voice softened. "You're a leader, Marcus. You always have been. It's time you started acting like one." "I don't know if I can." "Daddy, Daddy, watch me!" Lily was at the top of the slide, waving at him. "Hold on," Marcus said into the phone. He watched as Lily slid down, her arms raised in triumph, her face split by a huge grin.
Did you see? Did you see?
"I saw, baby girl. You were amazing." She ran off to do it again. Marcus put the phone back to his ear. "I have to think about it," he said. "That's all I ask." The colonel paused. "Marcus, I know this isn't what you signed up for. I know you just wanted to keep your head down and take care of your daughter. But sometimes life has other plans. Sometimes we're called to be more than we think we can be. What if I fail?" Then you fail, and you get back up, and you try again. The colonel's voice was firm. "That's what Rangers do. That's what you do." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I'll let you know by Monday." "That's all I ask. Take care of yourself, Ghost. And take care of that little girl." The call ended. Marcus sat down on a park bench and watched his daughter play. Director of Emergency Services. It was ridiculous. Impossible. He was a combat medic who had been pretending to be a janitor for 3 months. He had no administrative experience, no political connections, no idea how to run a department. But then again, he also had no idea how to survive the Korengal Valley when his convoy was ambushed. He had no idea how to save Colonel Morrison's life when the most powerful surgeon in Seattle was trying to let him die. He had no idea how to stand up to a senator's daughter when she had her hands around his throat. And yet, here he was, still standing, still fighting, still alive. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all anyone could ask for.
"Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Lily had appeared at his side, her face flushed from playing. "It's 10 in the morning, sweetheart." "So?" Marcus laughed. "So, yeah. Let's get ice cream." "Yay!" She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the park exit. As they walked, Marcus made a decision. He would take the job. Not for the title, not for the salary, not for the recognition. He would take it because someone had to. Because the nurses at Seattle Grace needed a leader they could trust. Because the patients deserved better than what they had been getting. Because he had been given an opportunity to make a real difference, and he would be a coward to walk away from it. And Marcus Cole was many things, but he was not a coward. The ice cream shop was a small place on the corner of 5th and Main. Marcus had taken Lily there dozens of times over the years. The owner, an elderly Italian man named Giuseppe, always gave her an extra scoop. "Ah, my favorite customer," Giuseppe exclaimed when they walked in. "And her famous father." Marcus frowned. "Famous?" "You're all over the news, my friend. The nurse who took down the senator. The hero of Seattle Grace." Giuseppe came around the counter and shook Marcus's hand vigorously. "I always knew there was something special about you. The way you carried yourself. The way you looked at people. Like a soldier." "I'm not a hero, Giuseppe." "Nonsense. You are exactly a hero. And today, everything is on the house." "Giuseppe, you don't have to—" "I insist. For you and a little one. Whatever you want." Lily's eyes went wide. "Anything?" Giuseppe laughed. "Anything." "I want a triple chocolate sundae with extra whipped cream and sprinkles and a cherry on top." "Coming right up, Principessa." They sat at their usual table by the window. Marcus watched Lily devour her sundae with the intensity of a soldier on her first meal after a long deployment. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you going to be on TV?" "Probably, at least for a little while." "That's so cool." She licked chocolate off her spoon. "Emma's going to be so jealous." Marcus smiled. To Lily, this was all an adventure, a story she could tell her friends. She didn't understand the danger, the politics, the enemies he had made.
and he would do everything in his power to keep it that way. Lily, there's something I need to tell you. She looked up, her face smeared with chocolate. The hospital wants me to have a new job. A bigger job. It means I might have to work different hours for a while, but it also means I can help more people.
Like the soldier you saved?
Yes, like him. Lily thought about this for a moment.
Will you still take me to school?
Every day.
Will you still read me stories at night?
Every night.
Will you still love me more than anything in the whole world?
Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. Lily Rose Cole, I will love you more than anything in the whole world until the day I die, and then some. Nothing will ever change that. Not a job, not a hospital, not anything. Lily smiled.
Okay then. You should take the job.
You think so?
Yeah, because you're good at helping people, Daddy. And the world needs more people who are good at helping.
Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes. 8 years old, and already wiser than most adults he knew.
When did you get so smart? I told you, 8-year-olds know everything.
They finished their ice cream and walked home, hand in hand. Monday morning came faster than Marcus expected. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. He hadn't worn a tie since his army days. It felt strange, constrictive, like a noose around his neck.
You look handsome, Daddy.
Lily was standing in the doorway, already dressed for school. You think so?
Very professional, like a doctor.
I'm not a doctor, sweetheart.
I'm a nurse.
Same thing, Marcus laughed.
Not quite, but thank you.
Rose appeared behind Lily.
The car's here. David Chen sent it.
David sent a car?
A very nice car. Black, shiny, with a driver.
Marcus shook his head. Things were already changing. He kissed Lily goodbye, hugged Rose, and walked out to the waiting vehicle. David was inside. You didn't have to do this, Marcus said, climbing in. Yes, I did. Today is a big day. The board meeting, the vote, the future of Seattle Grace. David handed him a coffee. You need to be sharp. I don't know if I'm ready for this, David. Nobody's ever ready. We just do it anyway. The car pulled away from the curb. As they drove toward the hospital, David briefed Marcus on what to expect. The board would vote on 3 major issues: the appointment of a new chief of surgery, the restructuring of hospital administration, and the creation of a new position, Director of Emergency Services.
General Hayes has already endorsed you,
David said.
So has Colonel Morrison, and every nurse in the ER signed a petition supporting your appointment.
Every nurse?
Every single one. Even Reynolds, and she doesn't like anybody.
Marcus was speechless. You have allies, Marcus, more than you know. What you did that night, it changed things. It changed people. For the first time in years, they believe that things can be different, that they don't have to live in fear. I just did what anyone would have done. No, David's voice was firm. You did what no one else had the courage to do. There's a difference. The car pulled into the hospital parking lot. Marcus looked up at Seattle Grace Memorial. The building loomed against the gray Seattle sky, its windows reflecting the morning light. 3 months ago, he had walked through those doors as a nobody, a ghost, a man trying to disappear. Now he was walking back in as something else entirely. Ready? David asked.
Marcus took a deep breath. Let's do this. The boardroom was on the top floor of the hospital. Marcus had never been up here before. The executive level. The domain of administrators and politicians and people who made decisions that affected thousands of lives. He felt out of place in his borrowed suit, but he walked in anyway. The room was packed. Board members sat around a long mahogany table. Hospital administrators lined the walls. General Hayes was there,
in full uniform, flanked by 2 aides. Colonel Morrison sat in a wheelchair near the window, still recovering but determined to be present. And in the front row, watching with proud eyes, were the nurses of Seattle Grace: David, Chloe, Margaret, Jessica, Reynolds, and dozens of others. They had come to show their support, to stand with a man who had stood with them. The chairman of the board, a distinguished-looking man named Harrison Wells, called the meeting to order.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We are here today to address the crisis of leadership at Seattle Grace Memorial. As you know, our former chief of surgery, Dr. Victoria Crane, has been arrested and charged with multiple felonies. Our former board chairman, Senator William Crane, is dead, and our hospital's reputation has been severely damaged by the revelations of the past week. He paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. We have much work to do, but before we proceed with the formal agenda, I understand that one of our staff members wishes to address the board. He looked at Marcus. Mr. Cole, the floor is yours. Marcus stood up. His heart was pounding. His palms were sweating. Every instinct told him to sit back down, to let someone else handle this, to stay in the shadows where he belonged. But then he looked at the nurses, at David's encouraging nod, at Margaret's proud smile, at Colonel Morrison's steady gaze, and he remembered what the colonel had told him. Rangers, lead the way. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Marcus Cole. 3 months ago, I started working at Seattle Grace as a travel nurse. I was assigned to the night shift in the emergency room. I mopped floors. I changed bedpans. I did the jobs that no one else wanted to do. He paused. I also watched. I watched a culture of fear and intimidation destroy this hospital from the inside out. I watched good nurses quit rather than face another day of abuse. I watched patients suffer because staff were too terrified to speak up. I watched a system that was supposed to heal people, instead tear them apart. The room was silent. I'm not here to tell you how to fix Seattle Grace. I'm not an administrator. I'm not a politician. I'm just a nurse. A nurse who served his country for 15 years, who watched his friends die in places most Americans can't find on a map, and who came home to find that the battles never really end. They just change. He looked at the board members. What happened here wasn't just about Victoria Crane. It wasn't just about her father's money or his political connections. It was about a system that allowed abuse to flourish, a system that protected the powerful and punished the weak, a system that told people like me to keep our heads down and our mouths shut. He straightened his shoulders. I'm done keeping my mouth shut, and I think the people of this hospital are too. He gestured to the nurses. These men and women stood up when it mattered most. They risked their careers, their livelihoods, their futures to tell the truth. They didn't do it for recognition or reward. They did it because it was right, because they believe in what this hospital is supposed to be. He turned back to the board. If you want Seattle Grace to survive, you need to listen to them, not to me, to them. They're the ones who keep this place running. They're the ones who hold patients' hands at 3 a.m. They're the ones who know what needs to change. He paused. I don't know if I'm qualified to be your director of emergency services. Honestly, I don't even know what the job entails. But I know this. If you give me the chance, I will fight for these people the way they fought for me. I will protect them. I will listen to them. And I will never, ever let someone like Victoria Crane terrorize them again. He sat down. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Margaret stood up. Mr. Chairman, I've worked at Seattle Grace for 30 years. I've seen chiefs come and go.
I've seen scandals and cover-ups and more politics than I care to remember."
Her voice was steady.
"But I've never seen anyone do what Marcus Cole did. He stood up to a woman who could have destroyed him. He saved a patient's life when the attending physician refused to act. And he inspired the rest of us to find our courage."
She looked at Marcus. "If you're looking for someone to lead this hospital's emergency services, you won't find anyone better. Not because he has the most experience or the fanciest degree, but because he has something that can't be taught. He has integrity. And in this place, that's worth more than gold." She sat down. One by one, the other nurses stood to speak. David talked about Marcus's quiet competence and unwavering dedication. Chloe talked about how he had inspired her to stop being afraid. Reynolds, stern, skeptical Reynolds, admitted that she had been wrong about him, and that the ER needed his leadership. By the time they were finished, the board members were looking at Marcus with new eyes. Chairman Wells cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, I think I speak for the entire board when I say that your testimony, and the testimony of your colleagues, has been illuminating. We have much to discuss." He paused. "Would you be willing to step outside while we deliberate?" "Of course, sir." Marcus left the boardroom. He stood in the hallway, his back against the wall, his eyes closed. Whatever happened next, he had said his piece. He had spoken the truth, and no matter what the board decided, no one could take that away from him. The door opened. David stepped out. "They want you back in." Marcus took a deep breath and walked back into the boardroom. Chairman Wells was standing. "Mr. Cole, after careful deliberation, the board has reached a decision." He paused. "Effective immediately, you are hereby appointed Director of Emergency Services at Seattle Grace Memorial Hospital. Your salary, benefits, and responsibilities will be outlined in a formal offer letter, which you will receive by end of business today." Marcus felt the room spin. "Additionally," Wells continued, "the board has voted unanimously to establish a new patient safety committee to be chaired by Nurse Margaret Thompson, with full authority to investigate and address staff concerns. We have also voted to increase nursing salaries by 12% and to implement mandatory training on workplace harassment for all physicians." The nurses erupted in cheers. Wells waited for the noise to die down. "Mr. Cole, these changes are long overdue, and they would not have happened without your courage. On behalf of the board, I want to thank you for reminding us what this hospital is supposed to stand for." He extended his hand. Marcus shook it. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "I know you won't." The meeting adjourned. Marcus was immediately surrounded by nurses, all of them wanting to shake his hand, hug him, thank him. He accepted their congratulations with humility, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about Lily, about the promise he had made to always be there for her, about whether he could really do this, lead a department, change a culture, make a difference. Colonel Morrison wheeled up beside him. "Congratulations, Director." "Thank you, sir. I couldn't have done it without you." "Nonsense. You did this yourself." The colonel looked at him with those hard, knowing eyes. "I told you once that you were a leader. Now everyone else knows it too." "I'm scared," Marcus admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." The colonel gripped his arm. "You're going to make mistakes, Marcus. You're going to fail. You're going to have days when you want to quit. But you won't, because you know something that most people never learn." "What's that?" "That the fight is never over. And that as long as you keep getting up, as long as you keep swinging, you've already won." Marcus nodded. The colonel released his arm. "Now go call your daughter.
Tell her the good news.
Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed Rose's number. Hello? Rose, it's me. Is Lily home from school yet? She just walked in. Hold on. A moment later, Lily's voice came on the line. Daddy, how did it go? Did you get the job? I got the job, baby girl. I knew it! I knew you would! I told Emma you would, and she said maybe, but I said definitely, and I was right. Marcus laughed. Yes, you were right. So does this mean we can celebrate? Absolutely. What do you want to do? Can we get pizza and watch a movie and stay up late? It's a school night, sweetheart. Please, Daddy, please, please, please. Marcus looked around the boardroom, at the nurses celebrating, at the board members shaking hands, at the future that was opening up before him. Okay, he said. Pizza and a movie and staying up late. Just this once. Yay! I love you, Daddy! I love you too, baby girl. More than anything. More than the whole world? More than the whole universe. He hung up the phone. David appeared at his side. Ready to see your new office? Marcus smiled. Lead the way. 6 months later. The emergency room at Seattle Grace Memorial was humming with activity. Marcus stood at the nurse's station, reviewing patient charts on a tablet. He wore scrubs now instead of a suit. He had quickly learned that directors who actually worked alongside their staff earned more respect than those who hid in offices. Director Cole, we have an incoming trauma. MVA, multiple victims. How many? 4, 2 critical. Prep Bays 1 and 2. Page Dr. Harrison. And someone get me a... Already done, sir. David Chen appeared beside him, holding the surgical tray. Bay 1 is ready. Bay 2 is prepped. Dr. Harrison is scrubbing in. Marcus nodded. Good work. The ambulance doors burst open. Marcus moved. He worked alongside his team, triaging patients, barking orders, doing the work he had been trained to do. His hands were steady. His mind was clear. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. 3 hours later, all 4 patients were stable. Marcus stepped outside for air. The night was cool. The stars were out. Somewhere in the city, his daughter was asleep in her bed, dreaming dreams of unicorns and rainbows. He thought about everything that had happened. The abuse, the confrontation, the exposure, the trials. Victoria Crane was serving 15 years in federal prison. The senator's co-conspirators had been arrested and prosecuted. Seattle Grace had been transformed from a place of fear into a place of healing. And Marcus Cole, the quiet nurse who mopped floors, had become something he never expected to be. A leader, a protector, a father who kept his promises. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Good night, Daddy. I love you to the moon and back. See you in the morning. XOXO. Marcus smiled. He typed back. Love you more, baby girl. Sweet dreams. He put the phone away and looked up at the stars. The war wasn't over. It never would be. There would always be another battle to fight, another injustice to confront, another person who needed someone to stand up for them. But for now, in this moment, Marcus Cole was at peace. He had found his place, he had found his purpose, and he had learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength isn't measured by how hard you can hit, but by how many times you can get back up after being knocked down. The ER doors opened behind him. Director Cole, we need you inside. Another trauma incoming. Marcus took one last look at the stars. Then he turned and walked back into the light. Because that's what heroes do. They answer the call. They face the darkness. And they never, ever stop fighting for the people who need them most.